So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Greg Fredericks, and I'm the Regional Coordinator for Social Studies and Blended Learning at Putnam Northern Westchester BOCES. I am so very happy to be joined today by our in-house tech consultant, Linda Brandon, who's going to do a presentation today on using SSELA resources in the virtual or blended learning classroom. We're also joined today by Donna Merlot, who's another member of our SSELA team, and we are just very happy to engage in learning with all of you today. So I will turn it over to you, Linda.
Thank you very much, Greg. As Greg said, I'm the instructional technology consultant on the SSELA project. I have the distinct honor of being on this project almost from the very beginning. I'm familiar with the curriculum and have been working in this capacity for, I don't know, at least 10 years, probably more. Anyway, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to actually talk about some strategies to use in the virtual and blended learning environment with specific references to our SSELA curriculum. This is really not a how-to workshop, but it's a what can I do workshop with some examples culled from our curriculum. So first of all, I just want to acknowledge the fact that we're all in this difficult situation together. The challenges that all teachers have are the same, and teachers are really struggling with how they can manage students in two different learning spaces most often. Some of you may be all remote, some of you may be in hybrid situations. In any event, you are, hurdling the same challenges and trying to figure out, how can I manage my students in these two different learning spaces? How do I deal with students in attention, which seems to be a problem when students are remote. Of course, we know that students can somehow be inattentive even when they're with you as well. How do you manage to connect with your learners equally as well, especially if you're working with learners in two different learning spaces? How do you equally connect with them? Because it's definitely a challenge. So I'm just going to acknowledge these challenges that you're all going through. And I also want to say that hopefully a year from now, we will have gotten over that hurdle that you see our woman vaulting over in this image. But hopefully, because we've had to navigate these really challenging times, we will have more at our disposal to meet the needs of all learners when we are back to full classroom instruction. You will adopt blended learning maybe more readily than you would have in the past. So I think that there is a silver lining in the clouds. So we'll just take it as we can. So what I really want to talk about today are these 4 strategies for dealing with students in these two learning spaces in the remote or hybrid learning environment. Because we recognize that we really have to give students more autonomy when you're not in the same physical space as them. You have to connect with them differently. You're not able to walk over to their desk, tap them on the shoulder and tell them it's time to get on task. So students really have to be given more autonomy because just by virtue of the fact that not all of them are going to be in the room with you. So give up a little bit of your, of your talk and chalk type teaching and give students some more autonomy. Another thing that's really important is that we need really strict routines. Now that might sort of a little bit sound contradictory to my first point about giving students autonomy, but we really need to have routines. We need to have some structure. There's a lot going on, especially at the beginning. If you're a secondary teacher, or no matter what, actually when you're working hybrid, you're kind of almost set in periods when you're doing certain things at specific times. So when the kids come in, you need to take attendance, and how do you deal with them when some of them are with you and some of them aren't with you? But if you stick to some strict routines, you should be able to manage that, and you should be able to be there for all your students. Another really important quality that you need to bring to your instruction is visual learning. So I'm going to show you some examples of that. And I'm also going to plug an upcoming workshop that SSELA is running in February with myself and Donna Merlot. And the fourth item that I will talk about is how do we build community in these kind of challenging learning spaces, either fully remote, hybrid, or a combination, synchronous and asynchronous. So let's talk about autonomy first. Students really need to have some sort of autonomy, and this is where you can really capitalize on the fact that here is a good place for you to differentiate your instruction. We want to motivate our students to do more. We want to motivate them with activities that are going to give them choice and voice. So if we can use some digital tools to do that, we will be able to give different levels of rigor to the different learners in our classroom, and we can also appeal to their different learning styles. One really popular way of doing this in this digital environment or in the hybrid environment is through choice boards. Probably a lot of you have been using choice boards, non-digital choice boards in your instruction throughout the years. But now we have an opportunity to really capitalize on the fact that when we're doing them digitally, we can provide even more choice and voice for our students. So I'm going to show you just a couple examples. The first one is actually not taken from SSELA per se, but it is a topic that we deal with in SSELA. And this is a choice board that was created not by myself, I will say, but by someone else. The credits are at the bottom of the screen. And here's where in a unit of study, when we're talking about influential women in US history, students would be able to actually choose a topic that's of interest to them. And using these 12 buttons here can choose a topic that's of interest to them. I have to hit the present button here, hold on. So if they were interested in women's roles in colonial America, they would click on that button and they would be given their assignment here. So you can see they're going to read about Anne Hutchinson. They're going to watch a video about Anne Hutchinson. They're going to learn about religious dissent by clicking on links that take them to culled curated resources selected by the teacher. And then they're actually going to create a video or a podcast that will draw connections between Anne Hutchinson's work and that of an influential woman today. So again, you can see how using a digital choice board like this really gives students choice and voice and autonomy in their own learning. So you're going to be sure that they're going to learn better, they're going to be more engaged because they're going to be dealing with something that has intrinsic value to them. So choice boards are a good option for this digital learning space. I will show you another example of a template that actually could be used in any particular curriculum area at all, or any specific topic in social studies. This is a choice board again. It's made in Google Slides. It could be made in PowerPoint as well, or it could be made just using Google Docs or Microsoft Office 365, whatever tool you happen to have, or it could be made using an HTML page. So again, you can see that this is a template that I will actually be sharing with you so that you could fill in the individual topics. So in all cases, we know students have to engage with the content that we need them to learn. So all students are going to be doing the same reading. They're going to be watching the same video, and they're going to be engaging with the same vocabulary through these 3 links on the left-hand side. But then they're going to get to choose their project to demonstrate and show what they know. In this case, this is a teacher from California. Her name is Amanda Sandoval. She's like my heroine, whatever. And she created this template. Now I'm going to show you how I took this template and adapted it to our second grade rural, urban, and suburban unit. So here's the example. You can see it's going to look almost the same as what you just saw because I just took the template and made it and went to file, make a copy. And then I filled in the rural, urban, and suburban here. And instead of having a video, a reading, and a vocabulary activity, I chose to use 2 videos. And again, these are taken from our curriculum. I'm not sure if the first one I might have found on Scholastic, I'm not sure. But it links directly to the video where the student can watch the video. And then to the second video, again, it's from YouTube, pulled directly from our curriculum. And then the student is going to engage with vocabulary through a Quizlet. Again, this is taken from our illustrated glossary for that particular grade level and unit. So the students can study vocabulary using a Quizlet that's already been created. And then after they've done those 3 activities, then they are going to get to either write a story, create a digital poster, or create fun facts. So you can see that students have choice and voice. If they choose to do the story, they would go to that slide. All the directions are there for them. You can see there's even a little Post-it note here with directions for the students. If they decide to make a digital poster, they would do it on this page. Again, this teacher has provided instructions of the expectations. What do I want my students to do? And even have provided a Google Drawing template if they choose to do this in Google Drawings. And then the third activity is fun facts. And again, specific instructions are given to the students. So that choice board, as you can see, was taken from a template that I'm providing to you, but then adapted for our curriculum. The other thing that you want to think about in terms of, giving your students autonomy in their learning is for your assessments, it's often a good idea to have performance-based assessments and culminating projects using maybe digital tools, again, like things like Book Creator come to mind, or Adobe Spark Video, or even Google Slideshows. But letting students create something after they've done a particular unit of study so that they can show what they know, capitalizing on their own strengths and their own interest levels. Okay, I have to get to the next slide. Let's see, here we go. So I spoke earlier about how routines are so important in this new learning landscape. I think routines are probably important in every classroom, but especially in the hybrid environment where you might have 5 minutes at the beginning of the period where you're trying to greet all your kids as they come in. Some of them are coming in the room. Some of them are coming in online. How do you greet them all and make them feel welcome? How do you take attendance in this landscape? And those first 5 minutes of class, what am I going to do not to waste those 5 minutes at the beginning of the period? And again, usually at the end of the period. So if you have set up a set of good routines and stick to them, you should have a better classroom management. And students will always know that when I come into the room, when I enter this learning space, I know that my teacher is going to give me something that I can do. So here are just a few ideas. Now, the first one actually isn't an SSELA activity, but I thought it was really important in especially as we go through this hybrid and distance learning environment, that we connect with our students and that we give them the opportunity to let us know, their teachers, how they're feeling today. So I found this digital check-in online where the students can just go in. It's a digital form where they can tell how they're feeling today. And depending on what they choose, they're taken to another form where they can fill out some other things. We'll give them some ideas in order to deal with their feelings for that particular day. And then at the end, this is submitted to the teacher. So at the end of the day, or even, teachers can look at it quickly to see, well, gee, how is my class doing today? So those daily check-ins, there's a lot of ways to do that, but that was just one example that I thought was really good. Now, what are some of the bell ringers that you might have to do at the beginning of class so that, again, while you're busy doing your housekeeping, students are busy and engaged in some kind of task that's meaningful and interesting to them? You could have them do a scavenger hunt that you prepared in advance. This is one that I actually created using this tool called Flippity. And I think it's taken from the first grade families unit. And basically you would push this out to students like in your chat, so that you would push the link out to them so they could all open it. And they would go through these series of questions, and you would in the end get the results as well. So is this a need or a want? The student clicks on the picture, they'll get a picture, and they would answer the question correctly. And if they answer it correctly, they are able then to open the door and go back and try the next activity. So again, this is something that they can do quickly. It's engaging, it's fun, and it's also connecting them with the curriculum that you are teaching them. Another idea.
Linda,
Yes.
I just had a couple of requests in the chat. Would you be possible to share the links that you are going to? Some people said if they could actually have it open in another window at this moment. Would you be able to share that now?
Share the whole slideshow?
Yes, and if you'd be able to do it in the viewer mode.
Yeah, I have to go back to, oh, hang on.
And Laura, I also see your comment in terms of not being able to see it. I can see it on my end. I'm not sure why you're not able to see it at this moment, but it is appearing in screen share on my screen. If you're not able to see it, Laura, sometimes what happens with Zoom is if you want to log out and then log back in, that may resolve the issue.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm kind of jumping through this so I make sure I don't run out of time either. But now you should be able to open the links that I have. I would have loved to make this much more interactive by actually doing these together, but this is sort of just like what you can do. Like I said before, it's not how to do these things, but what some of the things that you can do. Now, I'm not sure that all of you necessarily have Kami at your disposal. But if you do, you could take a lot of the activities that we're already doing. Oh, let's see. I hope this is going to work. All right, here we go. Yeah. All right. So again, this is a PDF taken directly from the SSELA curriculum that I brought into Kami so that students could do this Venn diagram online with using that tool. So you can see here, this is from grade 7, unit 5, lesson 3, resistance to slavery. Students were going to read a ReadWorks article, which I actually put the link right on the Kami document, which you can do. And then you can see I've also provided students with instructions here on what to do. Use the text box tool at the left and complete this Venn diagram. After reading the ReadWorks article, compare and contrast the lives and accomplishments of Harriet Beecher Stowe and Harriet Tubman. So what I really like about this Kami tool is that if I am in a 100% remote environment, students can still hear my voice. I could even have put a video on this so that students are working on their assignments, but they're also having a connection to the teacher, which we know is so difficult during these times. So again, hopefully you all have access to Kami. I have the professional version, which gives you a lot of tools over here. And I know that many districts have used this tool because it is so valuable in this learning environment. Here's another digital graphic organizer taken from grade 3, unit 6, lesson 1. This is on our, this is probably linked in one of our mini units as well as in our 3rd grade curriculum, unit 6. But this is, we are all born free. So again, you could share this Google drawing if you're a Google district with your students. And if you make the file editable, they can all type in these individual boxes. So you could use this using Kami, you could use this using Google Drawings, you could use this using Google Slides or Microsoft as well. But again, pushing out visual content that's engaging to their learners and that they can actually interact with. another example of one of those bell ringers. Using a brainstorming tool at the beginning of class to set up a routine is another good thing if you want your kids to brainstorm. This happens to link out to an example I did for another SSELA workshop I did earlier in the year. Using this tool called Mentimeter, students would just go to menti.com, put in this code at the top, and as they were brainstorming questions about Mesopotamia, they would automatically appear on the screen in front of us. I would love to do it in a live environment, but it's already 3:22, but so we can't. But as students type their words, they would appear on the screen so we could see how everybody is thinking, what questions they have. It's great for a brainstorming tool. It's great for exit tickets as well.
I'm just going to jump in real quick too, Linda, just to remind everyone, just make sure that you're aware of your independent district's policies regarding Ed Law 2D and student privacy. You know, a lot of these different jumping off platforms are Ed Law 2D compliant. However, some districts require, right, the individual publisher to sign off with the district itself. And so this is a great opportunity to kind of connect and formalize the relationship that you should have with your tech department. But if you're ever in doubt, you know, feel free to reach out and we can try to get you connected to the right person within your district. But asking those questions in terms of having students engage in virtual learning, you know, you want to make sure that you're operating within what the expectations are for your district.
Thank you, Greg. That's
Sure.
really important. All right, so, I went to the next page. I can't, you know, this little toolbar at the bottom is in my way. Let me see what I can do here. Engage prior knowledge. How can I get rid of that? Oh, there we go. I got it. There we go. I got to move my little bars around. Sorry, guys. All right, so again, I'm showing another example using Kami here of another way you might engage some prior knowledge or use visuals to stoke interest for your students. So again, this is something taken directly from the SSELA website. This is grade 5, unit 6, lesson 3. Students are looking at 3 paintings in preparation for their work on the Diego Rivera mural that they're going to analyze. So again, this could be a bell ringer. This could be a do now that students do at the very beginning of class. The teacher instructions are at the top, and they're supposed to look at these 3 paintings and figure out what is depicted here, using the Kami tools to circle clues that they find in the images, etc. And again, they can then work directly on this document and type in their answers. So again, routines are very important. Going to the next category, what is another strategy that is really important for us to use in the virtual learning environment? Visuals. And like I said before, Donna and I are going to be doing a workshop starting in February on the 11th. So you can see that was sent out in the listserv today. But there's so many ways that you can use visuals in the digital learning environment. So again, I'm going to just show you a few examples here. The first is what's going on in this picture, okay? So this is a document that I created in Google Drawings. And all it is, it's an image taken actually from the New York Times Learning Network. And when I share this with my students in a Zoom or a Google Meet, and if I'm a Google district and I allow anyone with the link can comment, students would automatically be typing in the commenting box and all their comments would appear on the side. So we're all examining this image together, trying to figure out what it is and brainstorming ideas together. So not only are we doing visual learning, we're also doing collective learning. We're doing collaboration and communication with each other. If you don't have Google Drawings, there are many other ways that you could do this. You could put this up in a PowerPoint and use some sort of digital tool that would allow students to comment, things like Padlet. There are all kinds of different digital tools that you can use, or even virtual whiteboards as well. So visual learning is really facilitated in using digital tools like these. Well, we all know that we're using a lot of video these days, but what's important to think about when we're using video is perhaps, and it's interesting, I didn't bring this up on the slideshow, but using tools like Edpuzzle, where you can push out videos to students. And we all know that our ELA curriculum is chock full of videos. And then pushing them out using a tool like Edpuzzle lets us provide focus questions for students to think about as they're watching the video, or lets us ask multiple choice questions of the students to know that they are listening and learning from the video, or just to provide scaffolds for the students. For instance, help with vocabulary or with concepts that are covered in that video. So what Edpuzzle will do is it will actually pause the video, and these questions will pop up on the screen. Students are not allowed to skip ahead, so you know they're really allowed to watch the whole video. I should have showed an example of that. It just occurred to me right now. But here's another example that I have, something that I actually created for grade 6, unit 2, lesson 3. So on slide number 4 here, actually slide number 5, I have embedded the 3 videos that students are to watch during this lesson. And if you click on them, they will simply play, and the student could actually open it up full screen, which I'm not going to do. But I've also provided on the slide itself the organizer that they could open up, forces a copy, so that they would have to make a copy for themselves. So while they're watching this video, they are going to be taking the notes and using the graphic organizer that we have provided on the social studies curriculum. So putting this stuff together might take a little bit of time, but you'll have it year after year. And you'll also have the added advantage of this: when we're no longer in remote learning, you can still use all these resources in your classroom, in either a blended learning environment or in a classroom environment. So investing the time to create these will be well worth your while in the long run. Some other ways that we can use visuals. Google has a great tool called the Tour Builder, which I heard they're taking out of commission in July. So if you haven't used it yet, I highly recommend that you visit Google Tour Builder and build your tours now, because they will still be able to be viewed in the future. So this is one that I created for our 3rd grade communities around the world, and it just goes through the various locations that we have students visiting in this actual curriculum itself. If you're a 3rd grade teacher, you know the students go to the Statue of Liberty, they go to Rio de Janeiro for Carnival, they go to Kenya to the Masai Mara National Reserve, they go to the Great Wall of China, and I also have them going to Albany, just so they get ready for their 4th grade curriculum. But again, you can see here that this virtual tour will take them on a tour of the world. It'll engage them with images and text and whatever else you happen to include, including videos themselves. So it's really able to capitalize on this virtual and visual learning experience. Timelines, of course, are great to use in a digital learning space, and there are so many digital timelining tools that you can use, or you can even have students create them themselves. When we talk about map skills, we have students engaging with maps in many different ways, but here is a interactive map that I created using this tool called Flippity, which you saw me using at the beginning for that scavenger hunt. But you could push this link out to students, and as students would label the continents, this is This is third grade curriculum again. And if you wanted to use this as an assessment, you could actually have the students take a screenshot and show you their completed map, or share it with you in some other way. So again, this was hand created by me using a tool called Flippity. There are specific instructions on that site and how to use it. And once you've created it, you always have it, and it's easily accessible through one simple link that you see there at the top, so that students could go on and play these games that you have created for them. I have another example here, another map. This is for our colonial unit, where, and this is covered in both grade, in middle school and in elementary school, where students are studying the 13 colonies and have to distinguish what region they're part of. So again, created this Flippity activity where students would label the map. If you want to see how they do, they could take a screenshot and send it to you. So visual learning. Here's a really clever assignment, again, using visuals that students can relate to. If you're studying the amendments, I found this from another teacher created this, and I shared it with one of the teachers I'm working with in one of my districts. Summarize each of the amendments using emojis. Kids had so much fun with this assignment because it's something that they could relate to using emojis, but they also had to have, some understanding of the amendments and what they stand for and how they could exemplify each of those amendments using emoji. And those emojis can be found from the emoji encyclopedia, EmojiCon, I think it's called. But students, you could also have students taking this further by having a writing assignment to explain why they chose those icons. Any questions before I keep going? I keep going. All right, so the next, and I think my last slide, is we talk about in the remote learning environment, how important it is to build community. Our kids miss each other. We miss our kids. We need them to work together. We need them to work together, whether they're in class, in our room with us, or connecting in remotely. So whatever you can do as a teacher to bring those two groups together, including yourself, and also bringing yourself into the mix, there are so many different digital tools that you can use to accomplish this. First of all, if you are using Zoom or Google Meet, you have the advantage of now being able to put students in individual breakout rooms and giving them individual assignments in those breakout rooms. I forgot to link to my breakout room slideshow, but I will add that link at the end of this session. But if you put kids in breakout rooms, you want to make sure that they have a specific task that they are in, that they're expected to do in that breakout room, because you can't be in all the breakout rooms together with them. You can only visit one at a time. And I know, because I've been working with teachers, how difficult that can be. But if you provide them with a document or a Google slideshow that has the expectations on it, and even make it editable for students, so they're expected to jot down their thinking and jot down their ideas and have discussions with each other, they will be much more on task in those breakout rooms, rather than just saying, oh, you're going in this breakout room, discuss 3 reasons why, whatever. So keep your breakout rooms, give your breakout room structure using any number of tools that you might find. I'm going to show you again a couple of projects that are actually online if you happen to be on grade 6 or grade 3 teachers, but we have a couple of digital breakouts that we have created where students have to solve problems together as a group. This one is part of the 3rd grade social studies curriculum. So again, you would put students in groups, and together they would have this link and they would work together to try to break out of this digital breakout, where they have to answer questions about geography that they've learned in Unit 1 of grade 3, and they need to find clues to to solve in order to break out of this digital breakout. So this is actually a geo greeting, where they're going to say, what is the largest continent? So after they realize what is the largest continent, then they're going to realize that that is how they're going to open out one of these locks over here. So that's, a great team building activity, really giving students something to do together as a group. We have another digital breakout online that is on our grade 6 curriculum, which is on the Muslim contributions to society. And again, there's an image here. Students work together to solve this, to solve these puzzles, and then put their collective intelligence together to break out and beat their other teammates at this riddle. Pear Deck is an awesome tool to use for collaborative learning. Again, connecting with students in your remote space and your classroom space at the same time. I'm going to open this up in Pear Deck. Pear Deck is available both in Microsoft and in Google Slides as an add-on. And there is a free version and there is a paid version. Again, remember, check with your district about EdLaw 2D, make sure that you have access to this. But what happens is, if I would start this lesson as a Pear Deck, it would then become an interactive lesson where, as I was going through my presentation, students would, I'm not sure if you've used it before, but I'll just log in. Students would type in, actually, if you guys want to, if you can open another tab, you would go to joinpd.com and then put in my code, which I'm going to put in right now so you can see what it looks like when students would be joining. NWTPYV. So I've joined the class. Then when I start the class, I would be presenting this material to the students. They would not be able to advance through the slides until I allowed them to. But when you get to a slide like this, the students would actually be typing in their answers, and I, as the teacher, can present all of the different ideas up on the board. So you can see, you as my other students can see how other kids have answered. I can pull up other kids' answers. We can talk about them, but the students are anonymous. Pear Deck is a great, great tool for the remote learning environment and for the hybrid learning environment as well. So again, you can see how students can interact with these, answer questions, and I can show their answers up on the screen for you. I love Flipgrid. I'm not sure how many of you have ever used it. I've got 100 tabs open here at the top, so I'm going to try to close some of them down before I burden my computer here. But, using Flipgrid, especially students in a remote learning environment, it gives them the chance to see you, and it gives you the chance to see them. So students can now answer your prompts through video. If they're shy, they don't need to show their face. They can just put a filter on. They can cover their face with different things, but it gives them the opportunity to answer your questions, and you can review those when you log into your own Flipgrid. Now, what I really like a lot about Flipgrid is that it's free to everyone. Like I said before, Microsoft has purchased it, so it's free to all educators. And this discovery page lets you find content from curated content from their partners, and their partners are many, as you can see here. So if you want some ideas of how might you incorporate Flipgrid into your SSELA curriculum, you could actually just type in a search term, or you could see what other teachers have already done. So you can actually filter content here. I'm going to go to social studies, and maybe I'm going to look for middle school social studies. And then you can see here that I might even want to look further for topics. I'm going to put in African Americans. Oops, I have to spell it right. Anyway, you will get a lot of ideas of things that other teachers have already done with Flipgrid, and you can copy those activities right into your own account. I was gonna, let's see, I had some great ones I was gonna show you, and I forgot to bookmark them. African American heroes, that actually says it's a Nearpod lesson. But again, this is something that was designed by someone else, but you go through the slideshow and you can actually save this to your collection. Oh, I know where I save things. Hang on, let me look up here at my favorites. I saved a couple in my favorites. That's what I did. Here they are. So here are a couple of loyalist or patriot. I know that's a topic that we study a few times in our SSELA curriculum. So here is a Flipgrid activity. What's the difference between a loyalist and a patriot? Which would you be before fighting and then during fighting of the revolution? So again, this teacher has created this. You can just copy this right over to your collection and have your students do that activity in Flipgrid. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You can find things that other teachers have done. This is using, I know we actually link to this website in our SSELA curriculum, but students here are going to visit this Jamestown online adventure, and then they're going to go into Flipgrid, and they're going to be the Captain Jamestown Colonial, and they're going to answer their question using Flipgrid.
We just got a good question, Linda. So folks, if you are trying to access the slideshow, Linda had shared it in viewer mode. If you go to File and then make a copy, you'll gain access to copying the links, utilizing a lot of the different formats. So, and that goes with any kind of, internal Google resource that we share or resources that you share with other people. You can always go to File, make a copy, as long as that hasn't been disabled, and then you're able to go ahead and take what you want and utilize it as you want to.
Right. So any one of these tools, I probably could give a 2 or 3 hour presentation on. So I know I'm kind of,
and Linda,
glossing through giving you ideas. Let me show you a couple more ways. Greg, you okay?
Yes. We have a question. So
okay.
I'm gonna go ahead, Dana.
Okay, sorry about that. I was just.
Oh. Try that again. Go ahead.
There we go. Yeah, I was looking at the same things. I'm having trouble. I might be out of just district because I'm in ON BOCES over in Lockport. But I was trying to undo one of the links because I love the form you had for like the we've been using DIS-5, but that sort of a mood form was really good. The problem is I don't know how to copy a form. I know how to do it with other things.
Oh yeah, well I might have to. Why don't you Greg, why don't you pop my email address in the chat window, and
Sure.
And I will make sure that I get a copy of that to her, because I didn't create that, someone else did. So I'm going to have to first probably make a copy. I'll have to play around with that. Sometimes Google
That's what I was doing.
a little bit more difficult.
Yeah, I was kind of stuck on that myself, trying to figure out how do I copy a form. So I was been looking up about 4 or 5 different things. So,
okay.
Right, thanks.
All right. So I'm going to move on a little bit. I'm going to talk a little bit more about some community building using some other tools that I like, Padlet, Jamboard. So Jamboard, if you're a Google district, again, I keep saying that, I happen to work with a lot of Google districts, and so I'm much more familiar with those tools than I am with the Microsoft tools, but I know that Microsoft and Google have equal opportunity for students to work with these things in collaborative manner. So I'm just going to go to grade 6, unit 2, lesson 3 again, and show you an example of a Jamboard. I actually, this is actually filled out because I used this in a workshop once. And again, this is where when you share a Jamboard with students and you give them the opportunity to edit it, you can see that they can add sticky notes. So again, these are those images that are taken from that same lesson that I showed you before. All I did was I popped these images onto each page of the Jamboard. And when the teachers or my students log in, they can simply grab a sticky note over here and type on it and say what this looks like, whatever. And you could ask them to write their name, or you could have them color code it in any way that you want. So again, using Google Jamboard is a great collaborative tool. If you are on Twitter, there's some amazing Jamboard files that are being shared all the time by this woman, Julia's. Oh, I'll have to put her name in the presentation. But again, Jamboard is a great collaborative tool for brainstorming. Kids can write, kids can use sticky notes, kids can include images. And again, you can be all in the same space together, sharing ideas and sharing, learning together. Now, another tool that I've been using is called whiteboard.fi, whiteboard.fi. And again, check with your district. Initially, this was 100% free. They have now, of course, offered a premium version, which I haven't signed up for yet. But what Whiteboard FI does, which is a little bit different than using Jamboard or another interactive whiteboard, it actually lets the teacher create a whiteboard. So here is one that I created, and you can see here that I have actually just used as the background of this whiteboard a PDF from our social studies curriculum, again, urban, suburban, and rural. Now, what I would do, and if any of you guys want to pop in right now, you could actually join me here. I will copy the room code. So you would go to whiteboard.fi, and when you were asked for a code, I'm going to copy this into the chat just so you can get the idea. So when you go to whiteboard.fi, if you open up a new tab on your browser, you could go to whiteboard.fi and you could log in. And then I could push this content out to you. So what I would do is I would simply click this push button, and I would push to all students as a background. That means you can't delete that. You can only add to it. So when I push this out to students as a background, and now I scroll down on the page, I can see Connie and I can see Dana are in there. I don't know why Dana didn't get the image yet, though. That's interesting. And they could then use the text boxes. And I would teach my kids how to use this before I had pushed something like this out in a live environment. I would actually, all these tools, I let kids play first, just let them play for 5 minutes to get it out of their system, and then they do. And then when they're ready to actually engage with the content, they would add text boxes and write in different words that describe just different kinds of communities. So again, and then I can see the students down here. I don't know why. I guess I have to push this out again. Let me push this out again. Let's see how many of you guys are on here. Oh, I can see I have Debbie, Dana, Connie, and Adam. You guys can fill in the whiteboard. And I can see all of your whiteboards. You can't see each other's unless I pull it up on my screen, but I can see yours. And when you're all done with this activity, I actually, if I wanted to use it as an assessment, I actually can save all of the whiteboards as a PDF. Therefore, I'll have all of your work. I can see that you have done the work and that you have engaged with the activity. Actually, you can see here, it opens it up as a PDF. And there you go. So that's a fun tool that allows you to connect with students in that kind of community. So I am going over my 30-minute limit, so I'm going to stop now and take some questions or have any comments or questions from anyone.
And again, feel free to use the raise hand function, or feel free to go ahead and pop your question into the chat. The other thing I also put in the chat is if there was a particular technology or website that Linda shared that you would like us to explore further in an upcoming webinar, we are happy to do that. We do have a webinar coming up on February 2nd that's going to look at unpacking all sorts of current events in the classroom and connecting it to the content and the framework, and Donna and Nancy McGuire will be leading that session. But certainly we are always looking to develop our webinars around your needs. And Linda, thank you so much for going into so much detail and really, I know that you kept saying that it was really kind of like a surface level dive, but you certainly have given people a nice toolbox to walk away with today. And we provided all of our contact information in the chat as well. So if you do want to follow up, or again, if you do want us to really dig into one of these, Linda is just, you know, a miracle worker in terms of utilizing technology, and we'd be happy to do that at a further or later date, rather.
Yeah, and like I said before, I put my email in the chat window. You know, some of these activities, like they do take a little bit of an investment of your time, but that reward will pay off in the long run because you will have these files for future years, and you'll be able to keep your students engaged through technology, even when you are all involved and seeing one another again. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and I hope you got something out of this.
And this will be available. It will, we did record it, so it will be available, and it'll be under the online learning tab once we do some video editing. So probably by next week, this should be available to all of our subscribers under the online learning tab. But thank you again for joining us today. And again, thank you, Linda, so much for sharing some really great turnkeyable technology with the SSELA community.
Well, you're welcome.
All right.